This is J. Krishnamurti's fourth public discussion in Saanen, 1973.
What shall we talk about this morning? For a change, it's not raining, so. Lady wants to discuss education. I can't hear, sir, sorry.
In our relationships, we make certain commitments, parents and child, teacher to student, husband to wife. Should we go into that aspect of relationships?
What is the aspects? I didn't catch the question.
Commitments we make as particularly parents to child.
The commitment parent to child.
Huh?
He says the commitment between people in relationships such as parent to child.
Responsibility in relationships.
I've got it. Responsibility in relationship.
I would like to, if you would dwell on the question of compassion and expenditure of energy.
Compassion, expenditure of energy.
The qualification is that I earn my bread mostly by, I hope, my intellect and not knowledge. And I find many people depending on me, and I have to fight off that dependency and still remain compassionate. And at the same
I have many people depend on me financially, and what is their right intelligent way of living and livelihood.
Hier, vous avez parlé de dépendance et vous avez distingué une dépendance intérieure et une dépendance extérieure. Est-ce que il y a vraiment une différence
Entre ces deux,
entre ces deux? Est-ce que parce qu'on vit dans un monde où l'homme est de plus en plus dépendant, il est dépendant de l'école, il est dépendant
C'est
de
ça.
l'armée, de son travail, d'un asile de vieux, d'un service de santé, de quantité de choses. Et est-ce que l'on peut vraiment, est-ce qu'on ne se sert pas souvent de l'excuse de dépendance intérieure, dire qu'on est libre intérieurement, comme
Sûrement.
une excuse?
je comprends.
Enfin, je crois que vous avez
Yeah. You have divided dependency as the outside and the inside. And most often we find excuses for depending on the outside and disregard the dependence inwardly. Is that right? More or less, sir? More or less. Fear. Comment? Action? Passionate interest. Good Lord.
When we talk about the nature of cause and effect and determination,
Cause and effect and determination. Could we talk about that?
You said that the mind cannot resolve what is. Can you explain this point very deeply?
Yes. Can you explain or go into very deeply that the mind cannot go beyond or dissolve what is?
La prima domanda era sull'educazione. Io vorrei una risposta a questa domanda. Chi educherà gli educatori?
The questioner says, I would like to ask little more about that education. Who will educate the educator? Now we better stop there for a while. Now, which of these shall we talk about? Fear, education, and the educator, the division between the outer and the inner dependency, responsibility in relationship. I think I live fairly intelligently, and I have many responsibilities, people who depend on me. What is the intelligent way of living, and so on, so on, so on. Now, which of these? Fear? What? Which is that? Che cosa lei vuole?
Pare che la maggioranza vogliano partecipare dell'educazione.
The majority. He's a politician. So which of these is sir? Big pardon? Quite. As long as we come with our own particular problems, we are not capable of listening to what you're saying. Now, which of these shall we take? Fear, education. Do you really want to go into the question of fear? Then, that's good. You know, it would be rather interesting in discussing this question of fear, not only going to very deeply, both at the conscious as well as the unconscious levels, but when we leave this tent or the gathering, to be really deeply be free of it. That would be marvelous. Completely be free of fear. And let us talk over together to see if it is at all possible to be free completely, absolutely of fear. It's rather interesting if we could do that. So there are two things involved in it. First, freedom and fear. Right? What is freedom? Please, this is not a talk by me, therefore it's a dialogue. What is freedom? Does the mind or whole being demand freedom? Or freedom only in certain things? Freedom from pain, sorrow, anxiety, guilt and all that, but not from pleasure. You understand? We want to keep our pleasures and be free of those things that give us pain, make us feel inferior, and so on, so on. Now, I think it would be right or beneficial if we could discuss this morning both these points. What is freedom? When you say freedom from fear, what does freedom imply? Is it just from fear? Or is freedom something much greater than from a particular annoyance, from a particular fear? from a particular anxiety, guilt, and so on, so on, so on. So, shall we discuss first, talk over together first fear and then freedom, or the other way around? Or do they both go together? I think they both go together. So let us concern ourselves if the mind can be really, very deeply, be free of this thing called fear. Are you really interested in this? Are you sure you are interested in it? Because if we go into it very deeply, we have to investigate so many things involved in fear. And to investigate it, one's mind must have no opinions, no conclusions, whether one can be or cannot be free from fear. You must come to it afresh, if that is possible. What is fear? And at what level does fear exist? Does it exist only at the conscious, at the unconscious level, or is fear part of our physiological nature? The fear to survive, the fear of not being able to acquire enough food, the whole biological, psychological fears. Then there are all the psychological fears. And can these fears be eliminated one by one, or can the mind cut at the very root of fear, so that it is dead, gone, finished? So that's what we're going to discuss this morning. What is fear? And what is it that we are frightened about? One may be frightened of loneliness. One may be frightened of not having a good position in the world. One may be frightened of not achieving something that you want. One may be frightened of death. One may be frightened of illness. One may be frightened of not being able to carry out what you want to do, however ignominious or great or neurotic. Fear of not being loved, and when you do love, fear of losing. Fear, the racial fears, the fears inculcated into us, or rather educated fears of heaven and hell. So there are all these various forms of fears. And most of us, I think, have some of these fears, or most of them. Now, shall we take one by one these multiple fears, or shall we find out the root of it? You understand my? Go to the very root of it. And perhaps in the understanding, having an insight, in seeing to the truth of it, the thing withers away. We don't have to fight it. You don't have to have courage. You don't have to resist fear. Right? Shall we do that? Now, please, that is, you may have a particular fear, a very neurotic, deep-rooted fear of something, darkness or precipice or living alone and so on. And if you want to resolve that one particular fear now, and you are only interested in that, then it would be futile to discuss the elimination of all fears. You understand what I'm saying? So you must be very clear, if I may point out, what it is you want, what it is you think is important. To eliminate one particular fear in which your mind is caught, or to eliminate altogether, absolutely, fear. Right? If I had to face that problem, I would want to root out fear. Not one fear, particular fear, but I want to be completely empty of this fear, of all fears. Now, which is it you are what?
At one moment, sir, at a certain moment of our life, we can feel a certain kind of fear, not all the fears. For instance, I am afraid that this evening it will rain. For a certain reason.
I see, I understand, sir. We are not generally concerned with the riddance of all fears, but the fear that happens at the moment. The tent might fall down. I live on the banks of the river, and there might be a colossal storm and wash that house out. It may be only the fears that happen incidentally every day of our life. All these are included. The immediate fears and the hidden fears which the mind has never discovered, and the fears that the mind has or has had and is afraid that might have again tomorrow, or the fears of death, which is in time in the future. We are including all those fears, not one type of fear.
I'd like to know why bring history to root fear, why take it away? Why shouldn't we just live with it? It's a part of us.
I see. Why shouldn't we live with fear? It's part of us.
Not live with fear. I mean, what's the reason of taking it away? If you're living with it, it's part of us. So what's the reason?
Yes, sir, I understand. Why do we ask that we should be free of fear? It's part of us. We have been brought up, we have been conditioned from childhood, from the animals, from whom apes, higher form of apes, and so on, who are always constantly living in fear, and we have inherited those fears. It's part of us. Why bother about it? Live with it. I think that's fairly clear. What does fear do? No, sir, look what happens when you have fear. Fear may help you to protect your life. So we're going to find out, sir. Wait, we are going to go into it. But if you say, please, I'm only concerned with the incidental fears, that is, the fear that tent may fall down, this, I may walk out and break my leg, something, the casual fears, I'm only concerned with that, and not with all the complicated, deep-rooted fears. I'm not interested in it. Either that, or you are interested. You want to find out, you want to investigate into this whole question of fear. Both physiological as well as psychological. Both the fears of the past and the future, the fears of that lie very, very deeply hidden in the deep unconscious. I include all that, both the biological, physiological as well as psychological fears. The fears that may help me to survive, the fears physically survive, the fears that do prevent clarity, that bring about total darkness, a sense of utter helpless inaction. We include all those fears. May we go on from there? May we? From there. So we are trying to discuss the nature and the structure of fear, both outside the skin and inside the skin, both the outward forms of fears and the undiscovered fears, the totality of fear. Right, let's start. Now, how do you set about it? How do you set about discovering fear? Have you any fears? Or are you free of them? So how do you investigate this question? Look at what you are afraid of.
Try to feel fear in yourself.
What? What?
Try to feel fear in yourself and look at it.
Now, try to see the fear in yourself and look at it, right? How do you look at it? I am afraid, suppose one is suppose I am afraid of public opinion. How do I look at it? What is the reason that makes me look at it? Please go with me into this. What makes me look at it, and what is the reason why I should look at it? Why? Huh? No, please just look. You say, I want to get rid of it because it is painful. Is that the reason you look at it? Because it gives you pain? But would you look at it if it gave you pleasure? So please do consider what I'm saying. Would you, because it gives you pain, therefore your motive is not to suffer, not to be entangled, not to be caught, not to be live in this terrible fear of something. So your motive is to get rid of it. Right? Are you following? And when you have a motive, doesn't it distort your observation of fear? What do you say, sirs? I have a motive. My motive is to get rid of fear, because I see that it causes pain, makes really, when I'm frightened, I'm paralyzed. There's no action. It's living in a darkness. And it's very painful. And it's kind of desperate isolation. A feeling that you have nothing to rely on, nobody to go to. And it causes great disturbance, pain. And the motive then is to get rid of it. The natural, instinctual motive is to push it away from you. When there is such a motive, is it possible to observe fear? Do you understand? We are coming to that, sir. We are coming to that in a minute. But I want to find out how to look at fear. Yes. Include all those things. Put more of those fears in the basket. But I want to know how to look at fear. You understand? And that's the first thing I must learn. How to look at this fear. As I see, as long as I have a motive to get rid of it, to hold it, or to overcome it and all the rest of any form of motive must distort the observation of anything. Motive is a movement. The meaning of that word is to move. Move in a particular direction. I don't know if you see it. The moment I want to get rid of fear, I am moving in a particular direction. And fear is not just one kind of, it's a tremendous thing. It's very complicated. Therefore, I must observe without a direction, without a motive, without a purpose.
Ma quel motivo non era lui stesso l'origine della mia paura. Il motivo che lei vorrebbe mettere da parte è proprio quello che ha originato la paura. Quindi come faccio io?
Un momento.
Avere paura ed essere libero dalla paura.
The very motive is the cause of fear. I am not sure. Just a minute. The very motive is the cause of fear. And you are asking us to get rid of motive. I am not asking you to get rid of motive. I am asking, does not a motive distort perception? That's all. What's up? Yes, sir. Please, I'm just going one step by step. That is, I want to look at fear. Because if I can look at it very clearly, freely, observe it without any movement, that is motive, a direction, then I am capable of looking. And I have a motive. My motive is, I do not want to have fear because it brings catastrophe, pain. I want to get rid of it. So, my mind is only concerned with the getting rid of fear, not with the investigation of fear. That's all I'm saying. You can keep your motives, but you won't be able to investigate fear. Now,
Can you talk about the basis then of investigation without motive?
we are doing it, sir. We are doing it. I am saying as long as I have a motive, direction. You understand? If my observation is directed in one direction, in a one particular point, then I'm not observing. That's all I'm saying, nothing more. And if you see that, then we can investigate very, very deeply. Not how to get rid of the motive, but see how motives prevent investigation. That's all. Right? Now, fear. There is physiological fear and psychological fears. The physical fears are, I may not have enough bread and butter, I must go and work, I might lose my job, I must have more money, and all the physical demands which bring about a sense of fear, of not being able to survive. Of course, you're saying, Madam, it is the greatest fear in the world. Agreed. You sitting here have not that fear. Have you? Huh? Have you? A fundamental fear of not being able to physically survive, and therefore afraid of not having enough money, job, position. I mean, now, did you hear what that lady said? She said, don't talk about money. I'm not interested in your blasted money. Please, let's go slowly into this. You are not. We are saying physical survival. I may not have to earn a livelihood, I may go around begging, right? I may do odd jobs for a week and earn enough and carry on, which lots of young people do. And in India, it's the tradition that a man who is a religious man can beg. Nobody will arrest him. In this country, or in Europe, if you try to beg, they'll put you, they'll put you off the street. So, now, that's one problem. Physical survival. In a society that has educated us to fight for survival. Then there is the other problem, psychological fears. which are much more complex, much more diversified, much deeper, which may control the physical survival. You understand what I'm saying? If I am not concerned about physical survival, I'm only concerned in achieving the highest form of liberation, I'm not bothered whether I live physically or not. My whole direction is there. Therefore, I'm not afraid. Little meal one day is good enough. Have you tried all that? Huh? That is, not be frightened of the physical survival, but only trying to find out the highest form of freedom. And therefore, you kind of don't pay too much attention to the physical. Now, which shall we deal first? The physical survival with all its fears, or the psychological fears which prevent the physical survival. I'll show you just one example. Nationalism, which is so rampant now all over the world, is preventing actually the physical survival of human beings. Right? The nationalism, which is my country, my God, this spirit of nationalism is preventing the survival of all human beings, not of a particular group or particular individuals. Now, nationalism is a psychological product, right? Take a country like India, it never existed before. Nobody has talked about nationalism. Now they are, swallowing in it. And so they are creating wars and all the rest of it. Not only India, but every country is doing this. So, which shall we discuss first? The psychological fears or the fears of survival, physical survival?
Go on where you left about a person who is interested only in freedom and hasn't got physical fear of survival, that person has a reaction that does not put himself outside as a resistance.
Yes, sir. We'll come to that. I think they're all interrelated, so you can't you follow. I want to look at this. To look at fear, both the physical survival factors of physical survival and psychological, all that. I want to deal with the whole thing, not partially or fragmentarily.
Is it possible to discuss fear, or is fear something which is so much inside you can't discuss about it?
Why not, sir?
I don't know.
He says, is it possible to discuss fear? It's so deeply in us. Come on, please.
If some fears are so afraid to talk about it.
Biban?
Some fears were very afraid to talk about it. Because they're so deep and far.
May I suggest the gentleman means when he says, is it possible to discuss fear? The moment we discuss it, we are outside fear, we observe it, and with the reaction to that fear, then you can't observe it properly.
I'm not at all sure, sir. I'm not saying you're right or I'm right. I'm not at all sure. You cannot discuss fear openly.
At the moment you discuss it, you're out.
No. Discussion is merely a verbal expression, a verbal form of communication. But it doesn't mean I'm rid of fear. If fear is there, though, I can talk about it, verbalize it, and see all the complications of it, but when I leave this tent, it is still there.
Yes, when you have a physical fear, you are, at that moment, you are in emotion. And there's nobody to say, I'm afraid.
No, but you are afraid that it might happen again after you have recovered.
That is already, you are already outside.
No, sir, no, don't let... No, I understand your problem, but I am asking, sir, please, we are making it so difficult. Psychological fears dominate the physical fears. They prevent the survival factor of human beings, not one group of human beings, of total human beings. Because psychologically I am attached to an idea of my country, to a flag, the Jew and the non-Jew. And they are preventing, which is psychologically, they are preventing survival. So I feel, if you will correct it, I'll be delighted if you correct it, that the emphasis or the investigation of psychological fears will bring about the survival of the physical and eliminate physical fears. Right? I don't agree with me, please. Think it out.
So how can you look at fear with fear in yourself?
Look, aren't you afraid of losing that which you possess psychologically? Aren't you afraid of losing that which you possess psychologically? I like dogs too, but it's not the right moment. Aren't you afraid of losing that which you possess emotionally? No? There it is. Now, can you investigate that fear? Taking that one fear of losing psychologically something you hold dear, either a person, an idea, an ideology, a belief, a conclusion, an historical fact. You follow? All those are psychological possessions of your mind, as you are a German in all the rest of it. Now, aren't you afraid of losing that? And can't you investigate it? Of course one can investigate it. I am afraid of, suppose I am afraid of what? Of losing my nationality. Terrible, isn't it? I'm afraid of not being a Hindu. All right. I can investigate it very, very carefully. I can investigate it because I want to find out the truth of it. What it lies behind the fear of losing this idea of not being a Hindu.
Isn't it like this, that if there is really fear, there is no place anymore for any investigation?
There is no place for...
Place left for investigation. If you really fear something, isn't it that you have a whole bodily reaction?
We're going to find out, sir. You say it is not possible. I say I will go into it, sir. Anything is possible, however deep that fear is, to investigate it. Any fear. Unless you don't want to, unless you are neurotically already caught in something. What's that? Fear of the unknown? Yes, madam. You see, you're all discussing one particular form of fear, and therefore we don't proceed any further. I want to deal with the whole factor of fear, not just one fear. And you keep on breaking it up and saying there's physical fears, there are psychological fears, and so on, so on, so on. And when you are tremendously afraid, you can't investigate. Now you're not here, you're sitting, you're not tremendously afraid. You're not in a black cloud. So you can now investigate that black cloud. I'm going to show you in a minute, sir. You've already said no, you're out of it. Therefore, that's a conclusion.
No, we are out of fear, so we are just discussing something theoretically.
No, not at all.
But just when I open my mouth here, I get afraid. Why?
When I open my mouth here, I get afraid. How do we discuss this thing with such contradictory opinions, assertions? And that means really, you do not want to investigate fear.
Isn't it impossible to step outside of something and look at it and really investigate it? Doesn't the investigation have to be done from the inside? Don't you have to...
We are doing that, sir. If you will give it a chance, you will see how it works out. Now, will you? How shall we deal? You have all different points of view. You all have different opinions about fear, how to get rid of it, how not to get rid of it, that you cannot or can investigate. Now, how shall we all meet together and investigate this thing together? Look, sir, I am tremendously interested whether the mind can ever be free of fear. Fear of every kind, physical, psychological, known, unknown. I want to investigate it. I want to find out whether the mind can ever be free of it. Or must it always live in some kind of fear? Live in a certain kind of fear so as to force it to behave in a certain way. Force it to accept certain forms of economic society. Force it to accept certain beliefs. I want to deal with all of that. And I say it is possible to investigate. Not as something outside, but as part of my life, of my daily existence. Can we do that together? Huh? Don't agree and then pick up later on. Say, what about my grandmother dying?
The problem may be that one, that we maybe find here in the tent that we can get rid of the fear. But next hour we are walking outside and the fear is back.
We're going to find out, sir. I said, we are going to investigate whether the mind can be free of fear completely, not only within this tent now, but finish with it. My goodness, you don't even listen to, I have said that before. All right, sir, you're wasting your own time. What is fear? How does it come? What is the cause? What are its expressions? Are we concerned with the expressions? Please just listen. Or are we concerned with the cause? Or are we concerned with the investigation of the cause, the effect, and the effect becoming the cause? Bene? You understand this? We are trying to investigate the whole cycle of fear. Right? Shall we go together? Now, what is fear? I have known it. You have known it. How does it come? No, sir. Process of isolation. No, please.
I think the cause of fear is that we don't want to be free.
Now we're going to express different opinions. We don't want to be free. We don't know. You follow? I'm asking together to find out what is the cause of all this.
Quite often the ego and the thinking of yourself.
In a rush that is usually connected with some prior experience.
Beg your pardon?
Way that is usually connected with a prior experience.
Fear is connected with past experiences.
It comes at you like a wave.
Yes, madam. Like a wave from the past.
Perché io pongo sempre il mio motivo non su quello che sono attualmente, ma su quello che dovrei essere. Mi creo dei motivi. Io non ho una reale attenzione su quel che sto facendo. Mi creo dei motivi e a secondo che lo metto questo motivo come un uccellino su questo o quest'altro albero, mi nasce questa paura, quell'altra paura, quell'altra paura. Se io non facessi questa cosa, forse non avrei più paura.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to translate it. It's fairly clear what he said. As long as I have motives, there'll always be fears. So, look, I want to begin as though I knew nothing about fear. Right? I am just caught in fear. I want to investigate how it comes into my mind. What brings fear? I was ill yesterday. It caused me great pain. And today I'm free of it. And I hope to goodness that it won't come tomorrow. Right? Just watch it. Pain yesterday, physical pain yesterday, no pain today, tomorrow pain might come. What might happen, that is, in time, is one of the factors of fear. Right? Just listen to it. If you understand this one thing, we can explore it very, very deeply. Last week, there was pain. And this week there is no pain. But the remembrance of that pain of last week, the remembrance of it, and hoping it will not happen next week, the interval between last week, this week and next week, which is in the field of time. So time is one of the factors of fear, right? Do please look at it. Just don't tear it to pieces. Just look at it first. Time as movement of thought, which says there was pain last week, there's no pain this week. Hope there will be no pain next week. Thought remembers the pain of last week. Thought being the memory of that pain, the memory which has left a mark on the brain. Please don't be bored with this. Listen to this. There was pain last week. The remembrance of it is the memory of that pain. That memory is stored up in the brain. Then that memory acts as thought and hopes next week there will be no pain. Right? That's fairly clear and simple. That is thought in movement, in time, is one of the factors of fear. Wait, I've just, please just listen to it. You understand? Now, psychologically it is the same thing. Mind possessed that idea, is afraid to lose that idea, is losing that idea, and afraid what might happen if it loses that idea. Thought again is this movement in time, is fear. You see, you are not listening. You're not interested in this. I know I can see, look, sir, you ask questions and then look somewhere else. This is tremendously important if you understand this.
You're not talking about the boy who was fighting to speak up.
What? What?
For example, a guy over there who said he felt fear because he was frightened to speak up in public. I know that fear also, and that isn't a fear in time at all. You haven't covered that at all.
Madam, look, Look, I said to you just now, please, we are dealing with the whole of fear, including that gentleman who said, I'm afraid to get up and speak.
That's nothing to do with what happened in the past.
Of course, but I'm going to wait. You see, you have already come to a conclusion. We want to deal with the whole nature of fear. Now, why is that gentleman afraid, or lady, afraid to speak here? Wait. Don't say you don't know. Find out. Let him find out. Why is he afraid of speaking in the tent? No. Look, why is he afraid? I'm not saying it is so. He's afraid to, probably can't put it into words. Shy. Has never put it into words in public. And he may state what he wants to say wrongly and may be corrected by another, and therefore he feels shy and fear. Look, madam, either you deal with small, petty little fears, or you deal with fear. If you deal with the totality of fear, then you can deal with the petty little fears. But if you begin with little fears, you will never come to the big fears or understand the totality of fear.
Est-ce que la peur est une réaction aux attaques dont l'individu est l'objet?
Sir, did you hear what I said? What did it mean anything to you? Then why do you ask that question?
Because I wonder if maybe another way of putting the one problem. You said fear is a thing into time. Did you?
I said, sir, fear, I said movement of thought. Movement of thought, which is pain a week ago, no pain, next week might be pain. A movement of thought in time is one of the factors of fear.
So another factor may
Wait! Madam, you have... You're only concerned verbally to understand it, aren't you? Because you haven't understood this thing. You have already jumped to something else. I am saying, if you see this one factor, we can go to the next factor. But absorb this. See whether it is false or true. If it is true, drink it. If it is false, put it away.
It's what you say, it's one of the factors.
But sir, have I understood that factor?
I think so, yes.
Verbally?
No.
That means you have the movement of thought. From the past to today to tomorrow, that movement being a factor of fear, that movement has stopped. That is understanding, not verbally, playing with words. If you have really done that, you wouldn't have stated the next statement, another factor, because you haven't fully grasped this thing. Because that means the mind is completely motionless, out of time. Now you don't need all this. You see, that's... Now let's go back. I want deal one factor at a time, not all the factors. This may contain all the factors. This one factor, if I really understood the depth of it, may resolve all the other factors and may bring about complete cessation of fear. But you don't even give it a chance to flower. You say, no, there are other factors. Let us drown this, let's take up a new factor. So please consider this factor, not intellectually, not verbally. Consider the factor as it is, how the mind works. Having a pain a week ago, today there is no pain. Perhaps there will be no pain tomorrow. The perhaps of pain tomorrow is fear of the past pain, which is the remembrance, which is the reaction of a memory, which is all the process of thinking. So thinking is the factor, is the only factor of pain, of fear. What?
Obviously,
And
if you give a tranquilizer, people don't think anymore, they don't fear.
you see, that's just a joke with you. You just repeat that. Is it so with you? You're free of fear because you don't think?
Take a tranquilizer, you don't
You see, I see that's all his superficial answer. It's a game with him. Just verbal game. And I'm not free of fear because of your words. You say, take a tranquilizer and you'll be free of fear. What kind of an answer is that to a serious man? I want to find out whether fear can end. Fear of death, fear of survival, fear of physical pain, fear of not being able to talk in public, fear of losing my wife, my children, job. It's a part of my life. It's not a joke with me. It is something dreadfully serious. Because when there is fear, there is darkness. Absolute sense of non-action. A kind of paralysis takes place. And if you like to live in a paralysis, that's your affair. And play with words and try to be clever, that's your affair. But to a very serious man, the question of fear is tremendous. And seriously ask whether it's possible to end at all. Therefore you investigate. You say, what is fear? How does it come? I see how it obviously comes in a very simple form. Past, through the present, to the future. And that is the movement of thought. And somebody says, take tranquilizer and you will be free from fear. I say, for God's sake, what? So either you are serious in your intention to be free of fear, really, completely, or you are not. You just want to play with words. If you want to play with words, please play it somewhere else. Now, if you are serious, I am suggesting that you look at this fact, that thought as movement in time may be the real cause of fear. All fears, not just one fear. Is that the truth? Is that a falsehood? Or merely a verbal, cunning, clever statement? It is not a clever, cunning statement, but it's a fact. It's an obvious fact. That is what is taking place in each one of us. This movement. I have possessed you. You are here, I possess you, and I may lose that possession. The thought of the future and the thought of losing, having possessed, is a movement in time which is thought. So I say to myself, I see that very, very clearly. Is all my life based on this principle, on this truth? I had a job, I have a job, I had it, and through competition, through all this civilized structure of a society, I might lose it. I might fall ill. And I have responsibilities. So, the movement of thought in time. I I am ugly, I don't know how to behave properly, I will learn to behave tomorrow. It is the same movement of thought, recognizing the fact of unrighteous behavior, then looking at it and projecting the idea of righteous behavior. Again, a movement of thought in time. I am violent. I am violent because society is violent. The world is violent, of which I am. I have been educated to be violent. I have been violent. Violence is part of my inheritance from the animal, from the ape. And it is abiding in me. It is part of me. And intelligently I observe it and I say, I must be non-violent. That is tomorrow. Again, the process of time, thought through time. So, movement of thought, which is time, is perhaps the greatest factor of fear. I say the truth of it. It isn't a verbal statement. It isn't a clever, cunning adjustment of words, but it is an obvious fact. Now, how am I then? What is the mind to do with this habitual movement of thought? You understand? I have been brought up to accept public opinion. One day I discover how stupid it is. Then I'm frightened. Again the same thing. So I say to myself, what am I to do? What am I to do when this is a fact? Unconsciously, there have been stored up all the racial fears. I'm a Jew, persecution, all that. Or I am a Protestant, persecution. I am a non-Brahmin, persecution. You follow? So there is all that racial, traditional fears stored up in the unconscious. In the unconscious are the fears of not success, of not being able to succeed, of not so on. It's all there, stored up. Now, what is the mind to do with all that? How is all that to be exposed to the light? You're following all this? Does this interest you? Right. How will you expose all that? Through analysis? Tearing off peel by peel, looking, observing, analyzing, all that involves time. How shall I do it? Come on, sir, it's your job to discuss this thing with me. It's part of your life. What, sir? Looking at the fact when it happens. And looking at that fact when it happens may take a long time. So what shall you do? You understand, sir? I am hungry. I want to be fed now. Not tomorrow or another day. I want to have my meal now. And I want to be, there must be freedom from fear completely now, not tomorrow.
And then the fact of thinking too means now.
Therefore, what am I to do?
First, you must stop all movement of time.
First, you must stop all movement of time. How am I to do it?
We can't stop the movement of time, so we have to stop the movement of thought in time.
Time is thought. Time is not separate from thought. Time is movement or in time. So time is thought and movement. So don't separate it all and say this one. Now I'm pointing out to you, what am I to do with this fact?
I do not know, sir. If I knew, I shall not be here.
Right, sir? Now will you please, I say to myself, I have observed this in myself. I have observed this movement of thought as time. And that brings fear. It's very clear. That's a fact. Now what am I to do? What am I to completely... We don't know what to do with it. Right? Now, whom are you? Who will answer your question? You understand my question, sir? You say, I really don't know what to do. Right? Then who will answer it? Me? You understand? No, sir. I'm asking a very serious question. You are confronted with this, right? With this fact. Whom will you ask what to do?
Se nessuno può rispondere come pare che nessuno possa rispondere, non mi resta altro che dire le cose vadano avanti così.
Bene. He says nobody can answer it, therefore let things go on as they are. No, Pizza, look what you're saying. I understand that very well. Look what happens, sir. What am I to do with this fact? I don't know what to do. Shall I ask somebody? He can't answer it. He'll quote me some book or say, believe in this and you'll forget this, or go to church and pray and, all that. I said, for God's sake, there's nobody to answer this.
Nemmeno lei.
Wait.
Nemmeno lei può rispondere.
I can't answer it. Wait. You're missing my point, sir. You are confronted with this fact, right? And you have nobody to ask what to do. Then what will you do? Just accept the fact? Just go on living as you are?
But you create the impact that way. If you have followed the movement of soul, as you have described it, you are not related to that question as I have to do, because you are outside of the fear. You have been, you have left alone, the fear is gone.
Fear is gone. Has it? Completely? I want to find out for myself. I'm not saying you're not free. You may be. I want to leave this tent. I'm talking I as one must leave this tent being completely free of fear. You may be for the time being, but when you go outside, when you go back to your home, when you meet friends, the whole thing begins. The mind says I must end all that, so that I can live humanly, intelligently, sanely, not just verbally. And I've come to face with this fact, the fundamental fact. Now what am I to do? Madam, gosh, please, what am I to do? Just ask this question. Nobody is to answer it. Because you have to find the answer yourself. That is where you need energy, passion to find out. Not just talk.
Do you really think we can find the answer now?
And you can.
How?
I'll show it to you. You see, again you're waiting for somebody to tell you.
We have to see the relativity of it.
Look, sir, I realize this mind realizes fear is a dreadful thing. It paralyzes you. It makes you ugly. It brings about violence, physically, inwardly. You become superstitious. You'll accept any illusion. You'll run away from it at any price. So fear, in any form, is the most deadly thing. Not verbally, but it's like taking a poison, seeing how destructive that poison is, and realizing the poison. In the same way, fear is that. Not verbally, but actually when one has felt that fear, you know what the whole thing is. So, I see that very, very clearly, what a deadly thing it is. Then I say to myself, what is fear? I don't want replies, you follow? I don't want opinions of people, this, I want to find out. Because I don't read books, I don't want to read books about all these matters. I don't want to listen to anybody to tell me what fear is. I want to find out. I don't want to suppress it. I don't want to put it away. I don't want to overcome it. I want to understand it, look at it, have an insight into it, feel for it. So I say, mind asks, what is fear? The little fears, big fears, the fears of death, fears of losing somebody, fears of what my neighbor might think, all kinds of fears, including fear of getting up, of wanting to talk and afraid not to talk in this tent and so on. So I say, what is fear? Basically, both the racial, inherited, the fears that have been acquired, the fears that are deeply laid in the unconscious, in the layers of my consciousness, the whole content. I want to find out. I don't want to be told. Or somebody telling me has very little meaning. As if somebody tells me, then I make that into an idea and then conform to that idea, hoping to get rid of fear. That means conformity, which is another form of fear. So I see all that. So my mind, being serious, not merely caught in words, seeing what fear does, my mind is now capable of looking. The mind then says, what is fear? The basic movement of fear, which produces so many deadly flowers with all its corrupt branches, flowers that have ugly. What is the root of it? Is it thought? So perhaps I investigate thought. Mind looks at thought. Thought is memory. The response of memory is thought. Thought, memory is experience. I'm watching. Watch it in yourself, please. Memory, experience, and the accumulated knowledge. The accumulated knowledge, experience, accumulated knowledge, which has become memory, which is the conditioning factor, and from that, any reaction is thought. All reaction from that is thought. Right? That's clear, that's simple. Everybody knows this. Now, thought, thinking about the pain last week, not having pain this week, hopes it will have no pain next week. The memory of last week, remembering that and hoping it will not have pain next week. And fear is caught. Fear begins. I see that very clearly. It's part of, not verbally, it is absolutely fact. Like a precipice, like a poison. And so thought, I see, is a movement. Thought, please listen to this. Thought is a movement. So thought can never be still. I've discovered that. The very movement is thought. So thought cannot be stopped. It can only be stopped by another thought. Suppressing one thought by another thought. And the other thought is still a movement. So I see thought can never come to a standstill. Right? So thought is a movement of time. So thought is time. Right? Now, that is as burning into me. That's a reality, not a verbal statement. It is something that that's part of my blood. And thought can never be stopped. Right? But the mind says, then, how is thought, which breeds fear, how is that to stop? You're following? So the mind says, there must be other means of stopping thought, controlling it, giving it a direction, and so on. So, when the mind actually realizes that thought cannot be stopped, then what takes place? You're following all this? At least some. That is, mind sees very clearly that thought is movement. Therefore, movement is time. Movement is time. Going from here to there physically is time. Psychologically, changing from what is to what should be is time. Any movement of thought is time. And any movement of thought, except with regard to technological knowledge and so on, must inevitably breed contradiction fears. That is an absolute fact as breathing. The mind says then, what am I to do with this terrible thing which is always moving, 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 moving? It cannot be stopped. And the mind says, time must have a stop. You're following all this? Otherwise I'm caught in always in this movement. So it realizes all this. So what has happened to that mind?
It is questioning itself.
Beg your pardon?
It is questioning itself.
It has questioned all along this morning for the last hour and a half. What has happened to the mind that has realized the truth of all this? The truth, not the verbal statement, not the description, but the thing itself.
Then it stops.
Doesn't take it so serious. Doesn't take so serious.
No, sir, no, sir. Just look at it, sir. Have you come that far? Sir, have we come that far together, at least taken the journey together, shared this thing together? No? That all movement of thought breeds fear. Whether little fears or big fears. The little fear of not being able to get up and talk here is not afraid. The big fears of death, big fears of losing that which you possess, either the money, whatever it is. All that is a movement of thought that must inevitably breed fear. So time breeds fear. Time is thought. The mind says, yes, I see that. Now, do you see it? Right? Is it mere observation of an idea? And therefore, a motive, a distortion, or do you see it as you see sunset, sunrise? If you don't, why don't you?
But if we go with you exactly, we stop at the moment when we realize that what is...
I'm asking you, sir. I'm doing, please, go, why don't you? Why don't you see this thing as a tremendous reality, as you see a precipice, as you are aware if you lose your job, or if something you possess, losing. Why don't you see this as vital, as something that is so burning? What's wrong?
Credo che riusciamo a vederlo con quell'intensità che lei dice, ma c'è qualcosa dietro a noi che ci dice non c'è niente da fare.
He says, I think we see this fairly clearly, as perhaps not so intensely as you point out. Perhaps even so, but there is something behind which says, oh, I can't do it. There is no question of doing. You see how you have translated what we have said into some kind of action? I'm not talking of action. Action comes much later. But your instinctual response is, what am I to do? I said, this is not a question of doing something. First look. You don't ask that question when you're standing on a precipice, what am I to do? I said, first look. Is this a reality to you? A burning, vital, intense thing that you have got there. And if you don't, what's wrong? Don't you hear words? Doesn't it mean fear mean anything? Or you just say, well, I'll put up with it, and all my life I've put up with it, now I'll go on putting up with it. Then you and I have no relationship. Because one man is burning, he says, for God's sake, I must be free of this thing, this burden. You say, well, my dear chap, go on by yourself and solve it. I'm not really interested in it. So, what takes place in the mind that has seen the truth of this, the truth, not the details, the truth of this fact, movement, time, thought, sees that as you cannot erase it, wipe it away, it is there. Now what happens to the mind? When it sees the truth or the falseness of this statement, what has brought up, what is the quality of that mind that has seen this? Pardon? So you're saying we see this thing clearly at moments and the rest of the time we don't. We lose it. Do you do that when you're walking along a dangerous mountain, there are precipices, you lose it? No. Comment, madame? No. The lady is saying moments arrive when there is no thinking at all. We're not talking of that. It's not a question of not thinking. I said, madame, écoutez, madame, we said, thought cannot be quiet. Thought is movement. Look, sir, I'll put it to you the other way. You know, the whole problem of control, which is part of our culture, part of our religion, part of our education, part of the family system, part of your whole background, control. That is, control thought. That is, one thought controlling another thought. That's the whole idea of control. Right? And to me, and you see, Such control is movement of thought. One thought dominating another thought. But it's still movement. And therefore thought can never be arrested, put an end to. And our whole system of thought, the idea is to control, put an end. I don't know if you see this. So contradictory to what is being said, one has accepted. Right, sir? Huh? One is tired at the end of this long talk. Mind is tired. I can't absorb anymore. What time is it?
12:10.
I think we better continue tomorrow morning. What? You have not talked about freedom. Freedom, madam, listen to it. Freedom is the ending of time. Swallow that. Huh? That's just it, madam. That's the whole problem. By just listening in the tent, you're not going to solve this problem. You have to work at it, you have to watch it, you have to see it. I think we better stop today, and we'll continue with this tomorrow, because it's really a very, very complex problem. And it demands, as I said, look, you must know how to look. Please look. If you know how to look into yourself, it's all there. You understand? You don't have to read any of the psychological, philosophical, it's all there. You may read all the technological books, scientific books, mathematics and so on, that one must. But to understand this whole question of fear, one must go into it in oneself. And therefore must know how to look at oneself. And that's our greatest difficulty. To look with clear eyes, never distorting what is, never distorting what is. You understand? Just to look what is. And then it's like, then it unfolds. Everything comes out, all your unconscious, everything boils out. If you know how to look. We'll do it tomorrow.